I developed this cookie with my students because we wanted a molasses cookie, a spicy ginger cookie that was spicier, that had more heat and more depth of flavor, but still stayed soft. I've adapted the recipe on my Linktree to fit into a 4.5 quart mixer, so it's a good place to start. And if you're ready to kick off your fall baking, this recipe will be a reminder of all the spices you have to order. You can adapt this recipe by using all fresh ground spices or including spices that are in your flavor repertoire. Everything from ginger, whole nutmeg, ground cloves, cardamom, cinnamon, fresh ground pepper, and ginger nibs. I accidentally ordered whole ginger that's candied, so I chopped it up. And instead of being frustrated, I found that it added more moisture and more flavor, so it was a win. I always begin by looking at my ingredients and making sure I have the right scalings. And then I start with the butter. While the butter is being creamed on low, I start to sift out and then incorporate all of the dries. And because this recipe has so many dries, it's really beautiful. And immediately you can smell that it's a ginger cookie. These spices are fresh, they are fragrant, and they add a lot of color. After I verify that they're all there, I use a whisk to further incorporate them because I want the flavors to meld the minute I add them to the bowl. Molasses, not blackstrap molasses, but molasses adds most of the flavor and color for this recipe, and it's very important that you use a high quality brand. I add the room temperature wet ingredients very slowly and in thirds so that I get a nice emulsion. This dough is actually a bit dry in the end, so I want to make sure that at every stage I am slowly incorporating and scraping and verifying that things are mixing at a nice rate. I've started a playlist for all of my fall favorites, and they lead into the holidays and sort of morph from fall flavor profiles into a general holiday season profile. In order for this cookie to stay soft and to not get tough, you are going to incorporate the flour only until mixed. There will be a little bit of a dry at the bottom, and then I add the ginger that I've chopped and only mix until combined. I always scoop my cookie dough and tray it up and refrigerate it overnight, bagged, before I freeze it for longer term storage. But in this case, I'll be using 2 different scoop sizes. One, which I'll bag for my everyday nightly cookie, which is a number 12 green, and the red scoop, which is smaller. A petit four is just 2 bites. So if you're going to be creating a box to share for gift giving, you want to make sure that every piece is small enough to just be 2 bites. The goal of a good holiday box is to offer enough flavor profiles that the receiver of the box can share it with their guests. It's not just for them, it's to make their holidays easier, to have something that when last minute guests drop by, that they can share with pride. And so it might not be a flavor profile they adore, but it might be something that their guests do. I advise that you go as strong as you can on your flavors, whatever the profile is, anise, molasses, almond, go all the way and give the receiver a gift that they remember and a flavor profile that isn't wishy-washy. And if you have the urge to throw in a chocolate kiss or do something like that, don't. Pick a recipe, stick with it, and stand behind it. You can roll a molasses cookie in regular sugar or sugar that's been infused with other flavors, or you can roll it in raw sugar, which gives a nice crunch. I also like to throw some kosher salt and fresh ground pepper on the top of this cookie. And if you choose to use a white pepper, which many people do, it blends in better, then sprinkle a little of that on top. The point of this cookie is a punch in the face of flavor. It's to remind people why they like molasses cookies.